At time with Jordan. Is this mic on? The mic is live. Alright, we are ready to go. Foodie talk. Alright. On the radio, let's stop footing. Yes, this is AI. Keen to get started. Pump those ratings up high. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Alrighty guys, welcome back to another episode of Airtime with Jordan. I'm your host Jordan Faso, and we're back after round 9 this week, episode 42 of the podcast. And yeah, bit of an easier one today. Got the weekly power rankings we're going to run through for sure. Give a bit of a spiel on each team and how they've gone last week. Fair bit of movement around the board again this week. Just trying to get my finger on the season. A few teams that I'm struggling with, as I'll outline in the power ranking segment. But yeah, in addition to that, today we've got I'm going to do a bit of an exercise going through each team and just list out some of the players that I think are in All-Australian contention for each team. So yeah, I'll group them by alphabetical order and go through each one. So stay tuned to see who I think is in the running from your squad at the moment. And then, to close out the episode, we are going to finish off with the Secret Star Society inductee for round 9. So, yeah, stay tuned for that one at the end of the podcast, as always. So, with that being said, we've got the Collingwood Magpies, first on my power rankings board at the moment. They've gone up one spot from last week, and yeah, it's taken a while for me to get to this point with the Pies, but yeah, I've made the call, and they've overtaken Brizzy for me at the moment. And you know, they took a bit of an undermanned team over to Perth and to play against Freo on Thursday night, and they still got the job done. Didn't matter who didn't play, and you know, Dacos was pretty much tagged out of the game for the most part, and he had a little bit of a purple patch when he went forward, but he just kicked the one goal in the end. But yeah, had a little bit of a patch up forward, but for the most part was tagged out of the game. They were obviously undermanned with the amount of people that were out with injury, and they still got it done. And I think for me at least, they're showing a lot of ways that they're able to win games now, irrespective of the personnel that they've got out there, and that's a really good sign for the Pies at this point in the year. And obviously still ways to go, but they're definitely my favourite right now, if I had to pick someone. Second on the board this week, I have the Brizzy Lions. So they've dropped just the one spot for me after their draw to North Melbourne, but you know, no doubt they'd be disappointed. And you know, I held firm with Brizzy for the most part of the season, but yeah, it's coming to a point now where you know, they haven't been dominant in any game just yet. I don't think, apart from maybe that St Kilda one. So you know, we're still waiting to see them in full flight. It's still early in the season, so no doubt they're probably aiming to get rearing come finals time. But, well, ideally anyway. But you know, with the game on the weekend against North Melbourne, if you sort of let one of those lesser teams hang around long enough, then the pressure's all on you, right? Like they've got nothing to lose. Like obviously North Melbourne weren't able to convert against them, but you know, you start trying harder and things are a bit more forced from your perspective. So I think that's sort of what happened with Brisbane in the end. They just let North Melbourne hang around for too long, and yeah, unfortunately got the draw on the season. And you know, for anyone who isn't a fan of the draw, I suggest you actually support the draw, because you know, on the first one for the year, I was pretty keen to see it happen. And you're supporting the draw and Draw FC, then you know, things are a bit more interesting, and you sort of just hope that the ball stays between the 250 arcs, and you know, you get to cheer when the siren goes. So that's one advantage of a draw and going for it when you see a game getting close late. And yeah, third on the board, coming back up the rankings for me, are the Hawks. They've gone back up one spot from fourth last week to third. So you know, they've been hit a little bit by injury to start the year, and they've kept racking up wins apart from that 2-week stretch where they lost a couple in a row. But yeah, I think you got to acknowledge that it has been against lower competition, but still excited to see if and when they get relatively healthy, to see sort of the full vision and potential of the team. So hopefully that happens in the next few weeks. Fourth on the board is the Geelong Cats for me. They've gone down a spot, and you know, they had a bit of a tough loss to the GWS down at the Cattery, and that's 5-0 for the Giants. The last 5 times they've been down to GMHBA. So you know, pretty good hunting ground for the Giants, which is, again, I've actually put them back up to fifth on the power rankings. But just on the Geelong side of things, they sort of want to be careful. You know, they're always begging for that home final, and you know, maybe it eventually does happen against the Giants. And That could be the case if you're looking at the fixture and projecting forward. There's a chance that they meet in the finals, and it's a long way to go. But just saying, if it is going to be the Giants, then that's a team where the AFL probably would let Geelong have a home final at GMHBA. So be careful what you wish for, Geelong fans, because you don't want to be facing the Giants down there come the end of the season. And then also on top, in addition to that, as I said, GWS, they're coming in at 5th on my board at the moment. So they've I gave Finn Callaghan a little bit of a clip the other day, saying that him and Tom Green in particular have to be a little bit better out of the midfield. And Finn Callaghan absolutely is back to winning them games, and he did so on the weekend against the Cats. He was very instrumental, transitioning the ball from the back half to the forward half. So that's his main attribute at the moment, and it's one of the best attributes you can have in the game is just finding ways to score for your team from the back half, and he's been that connector for them, which is really good. And Jesse Hogan back to his best as well. So if all their stars are firing GWS, this is the vision, right? They're just too hard to stop in totality. So very, very happy to see the Giants back on the winners list. And the other thing is, this team is just able to keep bringing in talent to replace anyone else that goes out of the team, and I just think that they just deserve a shout out as a team for their ability to recruit and develop players, which is definitely better than anyone else in the league, I think, at this point in time. So shout out to the Giants for that. 6 on the board today, we have the Western Bulldogs. So they've gone down a spot for me. They're, as I said, 6th at the moment, and they've finally fell short after a strong comeback against the Suns up in Darwin on the weekend. But I think it had to happen at some point that the injuries were going to come back to, not to bite them, but just they haven't played a lot of games together at full strength, and going up to Darwin is not a great road trip to have. So maybe a little bit stiff to drop, but maybe coming back to earth a little bit as well, the doggies. So that's why I've got them at 6th at the moment. Coming in at 7th, I have the Adelaide Crows, and they were 7th last week, 7th again this week for me on my power ranking. So good showdown win for the Adelaide Crows, and better team for most of the night, but they sort of froze a little bit late as Port started to charge home. But still a good win for them. I really don't mind the huge forward line if they do end up subbing one of them out, but again, that's obviously a bit of a risk, counting on no one else getting injured for that to happen. So sort of at your own peril, I guess, but they can sort of do it at the start and tire teams out with their size up forward, and then bring some run on like they did. They brought on, who was it, Tom Berry, I think, through the guts, and he was really, really good, I thought, late. So good win for the Crows, and I think they do need a little bit more consistency out of Rankin's midfield minutes. There was times where Port Adelaide's midfield really got on top around the ball, and there's only so much Jordan Dawson can do when he's half the time he is dropping back behind the ball as well. So Isaac Rankin, Jake Saligo, those are the guys that you want to see a bit more drive out of the middle from. But I think that's definitely been a little bit nitpicky, I guess, given how good Rankin's season has been in totality. The Gold Coast Suns. I'm here though. I'm here for them. They've gone up 3 spots for me, and it took me a while to get them. Sort of process in my head where I think they have ended up at the moment, which is only 8th in the power rankings. But I was a little bit hesitant as the season started anyway, and their form. I sort of criticised a little bit, they had a pretty soft draw and things like that. But I think they're right where they need to be right now, and undeniable that they've definitely been one of the best 8 teams to start the year. And as I said, in the Bulldogs section, it was a good win against great competition. It was in Darwin, but that's a great advantage that the Suns have up there. They're the only team that plays up there consistently at the moment, so definitely advantage, and keen to see if they can back it up against the Hawks this week. So 2 really tough games in a row, the Doggies and then the Hawks up in Darwin. So I think we're going to get a pretty good picture of what the Suns are made of after this round. Freo, they've stayed at 9th for me. No change for me from last week, but I know they lost to Collingwood, but it was a much better showing than the week prior. I think the week prior being against the Saints, of course, and I think they still need to figure out a few things. They much was made about their just general dominance of the game, but they just weren't able to connect going inside forward 50, and the amount of times you saw Erasmus and Voss and Josh Tracy and these sort of guys, all their key forwards just converging and getting in each other's way, and even the Smalls, the Smalls were flying quite a bit when I just thought they had real no business being in the contest. even guys like Shea Bolton, experienced players, he went up a few times. Same as Frederick. Like, I think they just need to figure out, just get a bit more chemistry with as a forward line as the season goes on, and then sort of let Sarong and that use the ball a bit better going inside 50 as well. So yeah, I think most games they probably. Most weeks, if you put that sort of performance out there, you're going to win. But unfortunately, it wasn't the case for Freo. They played a much better opponent in the Pies on the weekend, who made the most of their opportunities, and it was fewer opportunities too. So, quality over quantity is what we're going with here. So keep that in mind when you're entering forward 50. But yeah, Sean Darcy as well. His injury, we don't know what the extent of it is yet, but I can't imagine it's going to be great. But I think, for the Dockers specifically, I think it could be a bit of a blessing in disguise. Like, take the club out of John Longmuir's bag. John Longmuir, what's his name? John Longmuir. That's it. That's the one. Take it out of his bag, and we just want to, I don't know, see what Luke Jackson can do by himself as the number one ruck, I think, at the moment. Carlton, they've stayed at 10th for me as well. They're just winning the ones they absolutely need to win at the moment, apart from the Richmond game, of course, at the start of the year, which, isn't the best place to be as a team. I sort of you definitely expect a bit more out of them, but they're also only, sneakily only one game outside the 8 and have 110%, so on percentage points. So I think there's some okay signs there. I just don't think that they're that good, right? Like, what the ceiling on this team is probably 7th or 8th on the ladder and a first round exit in the finals. So, I don't think they're going on some sort of fairy tale run, but who knows? They might be able to peak at the right time of the year. But yeah, I'm slowly starting. Like, I think we just know what Carlton are right now, right? Like, they've got a few really good star players. Some of them aren't playing up to their fullest potential. Charlie Kerner had a good game on the weekend, but he's been quiet to start the year, and Harry's been solid, but yeah, a few injuries and stuff that have held them back a little bit. So let's see how they go in the next few weeks, and we'll start to get a bit more of an idea. But I think we are going to settle on the Blues being around that 10th best team in the league sort of spot. Sydney, again, they've moved down 3 spots for me. They're 11th this week in the power rankings, and I've fluctuated with them the last 3 weeks, I think it is now. But yeah, I'm starting to believe they just may not have it anymore. They may not have that gear and that sort of floor that got them to where they were last year. They just don't really have enough game winners right now, and obviously the margins are a bit thinner when you don't have Tom Papley and Errol Gordon in as well. But the whole Aaron Francis, Joel Hamlin, key forward thing is just very gimmicky. It just sort of feels like Dean Cox is throwing like shit at a whiteboard and hoping it sticks at the moment. And I don't necessarily think he has a better option than that right now. Like, I don't think that you're filled with confidence in what Hayden McLean has done for you and things like that. And obviously Joel Amarty's out injured too, so there's not much of a. They weren't doing anything to begin with though as key forwards. So I don't really know what. If the difference between Hamlin and Francis is much different to the other guys they normally have there, but yeah, it's not looking great for the Sydney Swans. And yeah, they almost got home against Essendon, but they were just beaten so badly before that sort of run where you had to show something, otherwise we'd be really, really questioning you. And I sort of feel the same. They may as well have not made that run because I think that they've shown that they're just not up to it at the moment. Like, Essendon's a team that they should be absolutely comfortably beating, given the top end talent differential between the two teams. And Sydney have been congratulated for a long time on being able to find bargain basement, whatever you call it, you know what I'm trying to say, but those sort of pieces and developing guys, and I don't think they have that sort of allure anymore, or ability to develop guys at the same rate. And even Riley Bice, one of their better stories, like he wasn't through their system. They picked him up out of the VFL last year, so good recruiting, but like the development from Sydney has really fallen off in the last few years, I think, and it's starting to show. Port Adelaide, they are 12 for me in the power rankings. They, as I said, in the Adelaide segment, I said they challenged late, but I just don't think this team has it in them quite enough. Definitely not enough to make finals anyway. At the moment, they're too inconsistent, and not all 3 of the big 3 are playing well enough, consistently enough, which has been one of my sort of through lines of the season for Port Adelaide. And I think the Crows are probably a bad matchup for them given the overall size that the Crows possess, but overall they just look really small on the weekend, and just like, as I said, a bad matchup. They just look really small, and overall Portage is not really an imposing team. Like, they have a couple of key position players in Alir and Asava Radagalia that are big boys, and Jason Horn-Francis, of course, around the ball, but there's just so many little guys on this team. Like, I don't know, you think, like, Butters obviously is a little guy, but he plays well above his weight. I'm not considering him in this cohort, but, you know, you've got McEntee, Moraes on the weekend, Josh Sin, Joe Richards, Jackson Mead, and Kane Farrell. Like, that's 6 or 7 guys right now who are in your best 22, who are just just tiny guys, like short and really skinny as well, which, like, yeah, every team's going to have some guys because you need to be able to cover the ground and things like that. But that's 6 or 7 of those type of players. That archetype of player is really interesting. Like, I don't know what the general philosophy is in playing those guys, especially in such a contested game against, like, you know, it's going to be a big contested game like the Crows, and I feel like they just physically were outmatched across the board on the weekend, and it's definitely not all about the size, but they just sort of feel like a Carlton with, like, all the nondescript sort of small forwards or half forward flankers and things like that. I don't love the archetype of the players that the Port have in their team right now, and I think that's sort of holding them back a little bit as well. Essendon, I've moved up a spot. They've gone from 14th to 13th for me this week, and, you know, good win against the Swans. They held on as well, which is a big thing. That felt like a game where Essendon might just collapse and get run over, but, you know, that wasn't the case, and I just don't think there's a player that plugs more holes in the AFL than Zach Merritt right now. He's just everywhere for Essendon, and he's doing it in, like, kind of what is a bit of a down year for him. Like, his efficiency stats are, like, horrible by his standards this year, so a bit of a slow start, so we'll see if those normalise a little bit for him. But in the last couple of weeks, I feel like he's single-handedly got them over the line with his composure and ability to control the game on both sides of the ball. So, yeah, really, really loving. As I said, this is a very big Zach Merritt fan, this podcast is, so yeah, we might even sponsor him, but I don't know if we'll be able to afford him. But yeah, awesome win from them. They could have just got run over in the end, but they definitely held firm, and the amount of injuries they're facing at the moment is really just quite staggering. Like, the nature of the injuries too. Like, they've had the debutant on the weekend, I can't remember his name, Lewis Hayes, I think his name was. First game ACL. Like, that is just ridiculous luck after you lose 2 ruckmen in back-to-back weeks before that. You have the dislocation, ankle dislocation of Harry Jones, who thankfully will be back soonish, but yeah, it is a crazy stretch of injuries for the Bombers, and yeah, hopefully they can get a bit better luck as the season goes on. And yeah, right now 1 game outside the 8, having played 1 less game than everyone else, of course, not including the Suns, but yeah, they're in a pretty good spot, Essendon. Like, good young team. The caddy, Kako, showing really good signs. Zach Reid, of course, everyone knows how much of a big fan I've been of his this year. And they're building really nicely, Essendon, for the first time in a long time. And I think that's actually something that who was it? Kane Corns might have said something like that yesterday as well. Like, they're just really, like, something looks a bit more sustainable about this iteration of the Bombers group. The Saints, not too much on them really this week. They were competitive again, but they're just not quite there, are they? Consistently, the Saints. I don't know which group's going to show up when, but yeah, maybe if that game gets played at Marvel, they're a bit better chance. I just don't think they play the G very well over the last few years, and yeah, they only play. It's only 1 home game a year at the G, so yeah, it's out of the way, and they can go back to playing perfect footy, perfect conditions under Marvel Stadium's roof. Melbourne, 15th. There's no movement for me on them, and I just want to give Simon Goodwin a bit of a taste of his own medicine. There was a game 2 years ago when Finn McGuinness went to Clayton Oliver, I believe it was, and just tagged him for the whole game. That's a role that you're allowed to play in the AFL, a role that Finn McGuinness has made a living playing in the AFL, actually, and he talked shit about Finn doing that 2 years ago, and then this weekend he's celebrating Clayton Oliver for tagging John Newcomb, who that's the worst result you could have as a team. You're tagging someone with imagine having $1 million tagger. That's just a ridiculous thing to pay for, and it shows that you clearly know that where you're at as a team, and you're not trying to win games. You're just trying to hopefully hang on for as long as you can, that you can eke out a win. You're not trying to play to your own strengths or anything like that. And I think that's a sign of really bad coaching at Melbourne right now. And either Clayton Oliver doesn't trust himself, or Simon Goodwin doesn't trust him and to perform at what the level he needs to be at. And if that's the case, then it looks like it's the writings on the wall for this team with Clayton Oliver specifically. It looks like he's definitely not going to be there next year if he's playing tagging roles at this point in the season. So, I think despite that sort of issue, I think there are some good signs from some of the players. I'll talk about one specifically in the Secret Star Society segment, but the bad sign is that the best player on their team, Cozzy Pickett, wants to leave at the end of the season. So that's not great. There's no real key position stocks coming through. Jacob Van Rooyen is looking like Sam Wiedemann again, for like a bit of hype early on in his career, but just not much talent overall for him. And performance, maybe not talent is not the right word, but his performance level has just been very subpar this year. And everyone's old, and it just shows. Like, they sort of just tried to junk the game up against the Hawks for 3 quarters, and then got blown out in the last quarter because they have no ability to score themselves. And I think they need to really have I've done a few segments on the D's this year, and I think everyone knows where I stand with them. They're looking pretty rough at the moment, and without their first round pick again this year, it's going to look even rougher. So bear in mind with that. 16th, we've got North Melbourne. I think they haven't moved up or down the board for me this week, but you can see it's starting to improve. And I think you just everyone just was a little bit what's the word? Trigger happy with North Melbourne, and writing them off completely and saying it's the worst rebuild ever, etc., etc. And it's like they've been given heaps of first round picks over the last few years. At some point, it's like a monkey is going to type Shakespeare, right? Like that old sort of saying. It's like if you give them enough opportunities, then they're going to hit on a few. And I definitely haven't been the highest on their rebuild, but it's slowly coming together. Like, there's no Paul Curtis this week. The last 3 weeks they've been really competitive, and I think it is just a step in the right direction, especially if you're a North fan. You'd be pretty happy with the last few weeks in terms of, you don't want getting blown out. They're doing what they need to do and be a bit more competitive, but at least they're doing that, right? They're not just continually losing by 60 points to teams that are significantly better than them, in the case of the Lions at least. So I think credit to North for making a step in the right direction here, and you like to see it. Richmond, they're still 7th for me. Nothing really to see here for Richmond. They got another win, and 3 wins at this point in the year is really good for the Tigers. And don't think we're going to see too many more, but you never know. They might get more competitive as the year goes on, or they might lean more into giving Sam Waller some more midfield minutes and Luke Traynor and things like that as well. So keen to see how they sort of manage their team as the season goes on, and whether they put some of the older guys on ice and give those opportunities to the young guys that they've brought in, especially some of them start to get healthier. And last place, we have the West Coast Eagles, and we're going to ask it again, but will they ever win a game this year? And this game against Richmond was one for the taking. They were in it, and then they obviously blew the ending there. But I just wonder, could they be the first team to go winless since Fitzroy, which happened in 1964? So almost 61 years this year since that happened, and that'd be pretty remarkable to do in an 18-team era as well. So the way I see it, though, they've only really got 2 more chances to win this year, and they play North Melbourne in round 13, which is one of the games that North Melbourne sold to play as a home game in Perth, which is in Bunbury. So, in Western Australia, which is in Bunbury. So I'd be penciling that one in if I was the West Coast fans, because you might see a win in round 13, or you might see a win in round 19 when Richmond come to Optus Stadium as well. So, they're the 2 games I've got circled for them as potentially winnable. They might get them both, but if they don't get either one of them, I think the only other teams they play are Melbourne. They play over in Perth as well, I think, and then they play the Saints too, which I feel like the Saints could lose one over in Perth, but there's not many opportunities where you can squint and see West Coast winning a game this year, and would that be something if they went winless for the year? So they're on winless watch. Now, let's get stuck into this All-Australian Contenders segment. So, yeah, just a recap of what we're going to be doing is pretty simple. Just going through each team, naming the guys that I think are sort of in contention for All-Australian this year, based on how they've played up until this point in the season. So, that being said, we're going to start alphabetically. We're going to go with Adelaide, and for Adelaide, we've got the skipper Jordan Dawson in the midfield. We've got Isaac Rankin as well. Riley Thilthorpe, I think he's probably just been the best key forward in the competition this year. After Sam, maybe not per game. Sam Darcy might have something to say about that, but yeah, for the sake of this exercise, we are not including Sam Darcy, although I would have pre-injury, obviously. And then Josh Worrell as well. I think his impact just at ground level against his opponents in defence is just unbelievable. Like in the air as well, he's really hard to beat it with the size and length that he has. But yeah, his ground level ability is really, really good for someone his size. And Adelaide have got a few guys contending, and probably could have named even Mitch Hinge as well in this segment. I will keep him out because I think he's a bit of a longer shot. But yeah, Dawson, Rankin, Thilthorpe, and Worrell for the Adelaide Crows for me. Brisbane, they've got a litany of guys you could choose from. They've been very good this year, some of them. And starting off the top with who else? It is Will Ashcroft. Love what he's done so far this year. He's been very, very solid. Hugh McCluggage as well, quietly having the best year of his career statistically so far, which is, he's had a lot of good seasons so far. Hugh McCluggage has been very consistent across his career. But yeah, really loving what he's doing to start the year. Dane Zorko just continues to stay young somehow. He's, again, been their best player statistically this year by all the ratings and modelling and things like that. But yeah, Zorko is having an unbelievable year at the moment, and yeah, probably the most likely out of these guys to actually make the All-Australian for Brisbane if it was, if it ended today. Josh Dunkley as well. Just think that the role that he plays and should be rewarded at some point. I think he's just been sort of unsung in that Brisbane midfield for a long time, and I think that his start to the year has been incredible as well. Harris Andrews, he's another one, just a stalwart of the All-Australian contenders. He's doing Harris Andrews things, intercept marking, intercept possessions, doesn't lose one-on-ones very often. All that good stuff that we want out of a key defender. So yeah, Harris Andrews is another one. Carlton, probably a bit of a lighter year for Carlton in terms of contenders, but in terms of serious contenders anyway. But there's a few guys I want to name. George Hewitt, obviously one of the leaders in disposals this year across the competition. Jacob Wiedering is as good as ever. Tom de Koning is an interesting one. I don't think he ends up getting in because there's only fewer ruck spots in general, but he's having a sort of an interesting impact season from a ruck's perspective. He's one of the leaders in inside 50s for ruckman by a fair stretch as well, and also meters gained. So he's doing a lot of grabbing it out of the ruck and kicking it long for them, which isn't always the most effective way to move forward, blind kicking out of the ruck. But I think his start to the season needs to be recognised. He's been quite good. And then the Smoky as well. Jack Silvani is having a very, very good year. And I'm sort of still trying to figure out whether it's good for Jack Silvani standards or it's good in general. And I think it actually is good in general, which is sort of making me think it's great by Jack Silvani standards, actually. So, yeah, I think that he deserves a shout-out. I copped a bit of a spray from some of my Carlton friends on the weekend, and for not including Jack Silvani in the underrated segment a few weeks ago. So, yeah, I'll put him in here because there is a genuine case for Jack Silvani to be an All-Australian so far this year. In the squad, at least, we'll say. Maybe not make the actual team, but yeah, he's been thereabouts. Collingwood, there's quite a few guys that you could have in there, but starting it off, Darcy Moore, he'd probably be the captain of the All-Australian team to start at this point of the season, and Nick Dacos, obviously, still side bottom, has had an incredible start to the year. Lots been said about that, so I've got to have him in there. Darcy Cameron, just one of the best ruckmen in the league. I don't think you can have this conversation without him either. Jack Crisp, everyone knows how much I love watching Jack Crisp play, but yeah, he's another one who's having a really, really good year by his standards even. And then the last one for Collingwood, I think, is Jamie Elliott, having one probably, if not the best small forward in the competition this year. He's, obviously a lot's helped by the 7-goal game he had on the weekend, but I think that, he's having a very, very strong year, Jamie Elliott, and I think he deserves a nod in the All-Australian spot at this point in the season. Essendon, I've got only 2 players for Essendon at the moment. I think it's been, obviously they've been a lot more competitive than many may have expected at this point in the year, but it's Zach Merritt, no doubt, and Sam Durham is the other one for them, so hopefully they get some representation. I have no doubt Zach Merritt will end up making it, but be interesting to see if Sam Durham can also make the All-Australian squad. He's having quite a solid year as well. Freo. We have 4 guys from Freo that I've put in so far. We've got Caleb Sarong, Jordan Clark as well, is having a very good year. I think he's pretty underrated halfback guy at the moment. Obviously people may not watch a lot of Freo games, which is probably fair enough given their inconsistency, but they do have a lot of talent, and Jordan Clark is a part of that high-end talent. I think he's, after a few he sort of came into the scene pretty strongly when he played at Geelong, and then maybe got a little bit forgotten about with the move out west. But I really, really love what he brings to the game. He's got elite pace and uses the ball well off half-back. So, really good watch. And, of course, Andrew Brayshaw as well has been unbelievable to start the year. He's had probably that one down week against the Saints, but overall has been very, very good. And then I felt weird having 4 or 5 out of Freo, but it's Alex Pearce or Josh Tracy for me. I don't think I think that Josh Tracy probably hasn't been as consistent as he was last year, so I think I might leave him out. But Alex Pearce has been very, very good. His blend of just overall size and athleticism, ability to shut down key forwards, and then also rebound himself is always one of his strong suits. And I love watching Alex Pearce go about his work. Geelong. I've got 5 guys in here for Geelong, and off the top, we're obviously going to lead with Bailey Smith. He's one of the top possession getters in the league. He's a top meters gained guy in the league, and has obviously played in majority midfield this year, which has sort of allowed him to increase his numbers, and he's been very damaging as well for the Cats this year. And another one is Tom Atkins, leading the league in tackles at the moment. He's just been had an unbelievable start to the year. Big part of what Geelong do down there with their contested ball and clearance work. So, Tom Atkins definitely in the running for me. Patrick Dangerfield, you've got to give it to him. Probably hasn't had pure statistically. He may not get in on a statistical perspective, but his influence on games is undeniable at this point, and he's absolutely in the All-Australian team. He would be a lock for me right now. Sean Manor is the other one. He's just been their best small forward, half forward winger type for them this year. He's really, really having a strong season, and there was a couple times on the weekend actually against the Giants late in the game where I think he was a bit selfish actually, which is something that you don't often see from Geelong players, and he had a couple pings at goal when the game was when they were within 1 goal or something at the end there. So a little bit of a discredit there, but his season up until that point has been very, very strong, I think, Sean Manor. And then of course to round it out, we've got Max Holmes. So everyone knows Max Holmes just having an unbelievable season along with Bailey Smith in the middle there. So those two are forming a very, very strong duo, and those are the 5 that I've got in the All-Australian team, or in All-Australian contention for the Cats so far. Gold Coast, got a bit of a longer list than you'd probably, than Gold Coast probably would have ever had at this point in the year. But we've got Tuke Miller, Noah Anderson, Matt Rao, Ben Long. He's been one of the best small forwards in the league this year. Bailey Humphries, that combo of half forward and midfielder type who I love. And then of course Ben King as well, the superior King brother is leading the Coleman. Absolute no-brainer for me there. GWS, we've got Lockie Ash having one of the best seasons out of anyone in the league this year. He's just doing everything for the Giants. He's sort of taken over as their number 1 rebounding player from Lockie Whitfield, and it's a good problem to have. Well, not problem, but it's a embarrassment of riches in their half-back line with Lockie Ash and Lockie Whitfield down there. Finn Callahan obviously is having the best year of his career and just absolutely breaking out left, right and centre. Jesse Hogan back to his best on the weekend, 7 goals, so can't argue with that. Sam Taylor as probably the best fullback in the league by none, so no arguments for me there. And Tom Green as well is playing his way into the season very strongly, and always going to be a contender with the amount of possessions that he gets week to week. So that's where I've got the GWS boys. Hawthorn, I've only got 3 Hawks at the moment. I think Jai Newcomb's season has been criminally underrated league-wide. He's been very, very good with his clearance work and ability to draw two, break tackles, and get the Hawks moving out of stoppage. So, I think John Newcomb absolutely deserves a shout-out. Carl Amon has been the Hawks' best ball mover this year, and they look a lot better when he's in the team. And then the last one is Jack Gunston. So he's having some sort of year, and arguably probably the best year of his career, or best sort of 5 or 6 week patch, maybe not of his career, but in recent memory anyway. So I think Jack Gunston right now would seriously be in contention for the All-Australian team if it ended today. Melbourne. I've only got 3 guys as well for Melbourne. I've got Max Gawn. I sort of was questioning his start to the year, but he's been unbelievable since then, and showed it again against the Hawks on the weekend. And everyone's been talking up Lude Meek for part of the season, but as potentially an All-Australian ruckman, I personally don't see it. As a Hawks fan, that's coming from as well. Like I love Lude Meek. He's a really good competitive ruckman, but you see the disparity between him and the best ruckman when he does go up against them, and I think that you saw it with Max Gawn on the weekend. It wasn't again, he competed, but Max Gawn is still the number 1 ruckman in the league, I do believe. So, which I was questioning early on, so I'll have to eat crow there. Cozzy Pickett is another one. I think he's having one of his better seasons so far. And then the last one there that I'll throw in there is Jake Bowie. I think he's had a good enough season to be in contention at least. I think he obviously falls out of the race as the season goes on. But I think a bit remiss to not mention him with his performance to start the year. North Melbourne, I've only got the 2, and one of them has been definitely hurt by suspension, in Paul Curtis. He was having some sort of season before he got the 3-week suspension. So unfortunately for him, he lost a bit of momentum, but hopefully he can pick it back up afterwards. And then Tristan Xerri as well. He's had another really solid year. I think he hasn't quite been as good as Maxi Gawn, but he's probably been the 2nd or 3rd best ruckman in the league behind Darcy Cameron as well from the Maggies. So those are the 3 ruckmen that'll be vying for the 2 spots, the 1 or 2 spots depending how they fall this year. But I think that sort of rounds out the rucks. Port Adelaide, it's just the 2 main guys that you'd expect. Connor Rozee and his move to halfback has been one of the most damaging players in the competition so far, and in that role he's really cemented himself back there, and I think he's actually elite. Hold on. He's leading the coaches' votes right now, Connor Rozee. So he's had some blinders in the last few weeks that have vaulted him up to the top of that at the moment, and of course Zach Butters as well. Not a big Zach Butters fan, but understand he's a great player. So, not a big Port Adelaide fan, as you could imagine right now, being a Hawks fan myself. But, I've got to shout out Connor Rozee and Zach Butters at the moment. They've been playing very well for Port. Richmond, not a lot of serious contenders, but I think you got to give the start to the year that Seth Campbell had a bit of a shout out. I obviously don't think he's going to end up there, but his start to the season was very, very strong to the point where he's probably the only one that's in any sort of serious contention for All-Australian at this point. St Kilda, they have a few actually. I think that Jack Sinclair, Nazar Wangan and Malira are always going to be in those discussions, but the way Jack Higgins has started the season as well, he's absolutely in contention. And Jack McRae as well, he's been top 5 midfielder this year, so he's I'll say he's probably a lock right now for the All-Australian team. Sydney, despite the down year, I think Chad Warner, Isaac Heaney, and Nick Blakey are all still playing well enough to be in contention. Whether they end up getting in or not is another question. The team success part of it is going to come into it for them. So, if it was done today, it'd probably only be one of them making it, if any. So, I think that those 3 are the 3 main contenders for Sydney at the moment. The Bulldogs obviously would have Sam Darcy in here if he was, still available and playing. But, he's absolutely, based on his start to the year, he would have been in. Couldn't quite get him over the line with the amount of footy he's going to miss. Well, has and will miss, I guess. But Ed Richards absolutely is a lock to make it for me at the moment. Tom Liberatore as well in contention. Bont is an interesting one. Probably hasn't played enough games just yet, but you'd assume Marcus Bontempelli is going to make it at the end of the day. So he's got a little asterisk for me right now. Him and Sam Darcy are sort of on the reverse swing at the moment. So Bont can come in for Sam Darcy in that case. Matt Kennedy, just been an unbelievable pickup, so you have to put him in right now. And Bailey Dale of halfback too. He's been unbelievable start of the year. So, the doggies got a few mentions in there. They may as well be the last team because West Coast, they do not have anyone that I would consider right now, unfortunately for them. So, with that being said, those are the Australian Contenders by team. So, hopefully that was a bit of a summary for you guys for like who's playing the best out of each team, and at that level that you could start to really consider those guys to be making an Australian team for this year specifically. So some of these guys obviously year in year out contenders, but you have some guys popping up that are probably newer to those discussions, like Jack Higgins from the Saints. Matt Kennedy as well at the Doggies, and Paul Curtis, Jake Bowie, if you want to say that, Carl Amon. But there's a lot of guys. Sean Manor as well is another one. Jordan Clark. So a lot of guys that have elevated their games to be in those discussions, I think, this year. And it's going to be interesting to see how the second half of the year pans out, because it's going to be a pretty competitive year for the All-Australian team, as it always is. So that being said, let's get into the Secret Star Society and close this episode out. And the Secret Star Society inductee for this week is Harvey Langford from the Melbourne Demons. And I'm definitely late to the party, maybe on Harvey Langford. I've seen him play a little bit now, and D's fans, as I went to the game against the Hawks on the weekend, and seeing him live for the first time, that you sort of start to realise how much the D's really, really love him. They every time he got the ball, there were like, I love you, Harvey, sort of things being shouted over the fence at him. So I think they're pretty happy with what they've got, and I can sort of start to see why he's going to be I'm pretty certain he's going to be a star midfielder in the coming years, and probably already looks like a top 5 Melbourne player this year, especially when you account for the opportunities he's been given. He's 190 centimetre inside mid, has outside game as well, as he runs pretty well for that size too. So rangy left boot, and pretty good goal sense as well. He's averaging 0.9 goals per game, which is actually elite for a midfielder. He's averaging 18.9 disposals, so nearly 20 touches and a goal per game as a first-year player after your first 9 games is pretty good work, I would say. So, they've definitely found one here. Melbourne, he looks like a star in the making, and I really hope that as the season progresses, that we see more centre bounce attendances for him. He's only sitting at 25% at the moment. But his centre bounce work is really, really solid as well when he goes in there, and amongst their top 10 centre bounce attendance guys, he's second in that group for first possession sort of resulting in clearances. So i.e. his touches inside are resulting in clearances for the D's more often than the likes of Petrarca, Viney and Clayton Oliver. So get him in there, please. He's only going to develop even more, and he's actually performing better than those guys at the moment, based on percentages of his possessions that are resulting in clearances. So I think that you'd be silly not to give him a whirl in there, especially if Clayton Oliver's just going to be a tagger. That's a shot at time, a good one. But the only player that he's behind in that stat that I just read out is Cozzy Pickett. So I think that if you're better than Petrarca, Viney and Clayton, and only behind Cozzy Pickett in your team, you're doing pretty well at the moment. So very good pick by the Ds. Love what he's done so far.